It was a time of great change, and it was nice to ride that with you all and see you come alive and be who you became. And it was a really great time to be here with you. From here I went on to Africa, and it was a different scene, whole different things. So it was a kind of abrupt end to the sort of teaching and things I was involved in with you all here. But I look back on it as probably the highlight period of my life. What I do today is probably an important legacy thing, because the money I raise each year keeps Christian Brothers University running. But as far as fun goes, the years I was with you were the best. So I think of you all often and remember you kindly.
You're on the screen back there.
I was sitting at the table with Brother Pat a little while ago, and he told me that when he was here, he was in his late 20s. And that was kind of a shocker for me.
Yeah, we thought you knew something.
And he said that Brother Bernardine had hired him, had recruited him actually to come work here. And when he said he wanted to do the fall review, that Brother Bernardine wasn't really for it right away. And one of the reasons that we got to have the fall review was because he felt very strongly about it, that it would be very good for the kids, and as we all know, it was. So the fact that he came and promoted it and kind of pursued it the way that he did, and I know it's such an incredible amount of work for him. I remember that that's just a tremendous gift that he gave us. Was that first and the second fall review, and I don't remember anything after that, but I just thought I'd share that with you. There's a Wizard of Oz.
You all remember coming here for eighth grade orientation?
It was a scary time, and we're sitting in the room, and I looked back and I went, oh my God, look at that poor girl, there's a burn victim here, and she just had this big red face and little bitty slitty eyes, and I thought, oh, how awful for her. And it was Martha Moran. She had the worst case of poison ivy I've ever everywhere. She thought I was perfect. I did. I thought she was so brave.
You look great now.
Yeah. Miracles of Martha.
Really cleared up.
Clear as silver. Okay. I can share that. Remember,
I have two things and a story. Hence, most of you probably know, about 9.5 years ago, I had a all expense paid trip to the Arabian Peninsula. And while I was just sitting in the stand without much to do, one day I get a letter from a lady who proceeds to tell me this great story about her family. And I don't have a clue who this woman is. That was not absolutely uncommon, because we would get mail from strangers. I read the letter, and she's telling me all this, and I get to the name. It's Patty Dean, and I'm going, Patty Dean? So down at the bottom, she says, formerly Patty Campbell. I go, Patty Campbell? I went to high school with Patty Campbell. And I'm going, how in the world did she ever get my address over here? So I was a little puzzled. The next day, I get a couple more letters from people in the class. And I have the list here, and I'll tell you who all sent them. And I'm astonished. I'm going, how are these people remotely knowing how to get the right address, because it wasn't that simple. About a week after I'm getting all these letters from people in the class, I get a letter explaining that Mike McGivern has sent a letter out to everybody in the class telling them to write that I was over there and that some mail would be nice. So I first want to thank Mike for that letter. And then I also wanted to thank the 26 people who sent letters. There was a certain risk to keeping the mail, so I didn't keep the letters. We didn't usually burn most of the mail so that it wouldn't get into the wrong hands. But I'll read to the list of people who sent me mail, and then and some of them are a little bit noteworthy. Mary Ellen Pazeruski, Suzanne Harris, Randy Whitfield, who probably he and I had 5 words to say to each other. Probably the most remarkable was Bill Kavanaugh, who doesn't write the anybody. I wasn't surprised he could write.
Well, yeah, what else can you do?
Yeah, he's a lawyer. Helen Leonard, Jim and Kathy Stooley, Greg Petzett, as I said, Petty Campbell, Stan Weber, Mike. Lee Anderson writes, isn't someone who just had their 20th high school reunion a little old for this? Vicki Taylor, Dick Brights,
Vicki Taylor.
Helbreth Murray, Suzanne Sellers, Lynn Summers, John Corcoran, Eddie Sullivan, who was a real surprise.
Now known as Earl Pottsville. I'm killing for me.
What a souvenir. Patty Moore, Marianne Lieber, who doesn't remember writing the letter, but commented that Mike had threatened everyone. Susan Kimbrough, Chuck McGinn, Mike Lip, Jackie Lohman, Rita Hellman, and Gary Oberstein. And I thank you all for the mail.
Oh, great.
Thanks for protecting us.
Did you kill anybody? Contrary to popular belief, Mike and I are not related.
No, we're not.
Although many people, including most of the Kelly faculty, thought we were. But we did have the occasion to really, I think, in 4 years, maybe had one class together. And this was when we were seniors, and it was Spanish 2 with Sister Aquilina. And the first day we go in there, and we're sitting there, and it's with sophomore girls. And there's probably 5.
Which wasn't bad.
Yeah, it was pretty good. So we figured we're in big trouble, especially when the whole class got up and said some prayer in Spanish, and we were, basically could say Buenos Dias, and that was pretty much it.
We were out of Rod Paneri's class.
So but we somehow managed to muddle through for 4 grading periods. And in the 5th, 6 weeks, we're in there, we've done terrible on tests, we've got no hope of getting a good grade, and we're struggling we've got to come up with something to get through here. So Mike was at the retreat, and I was driving down the street and saw 2 Spanish dancers on one of these, these Elvis things, the paintings on velvet and stuff, and I go, she'll love those. So anyway, I bought him, and I told Mike about it, and we said, well, we'll make a big deal out of this, and we'll surprise her with them at the end of the week. And so we went through this big build-up. Brother Roland comes to me and goes, what are you guys, are you going to bomb the class, or what's this big deal? So we gave her those 2 things, and that secured a passing grade for the rest of the week. And I think they were there until she left.
Yeah. Greg's he's only embarrassed to tell you that we actually had 2 classes together briefly. We studied journalism together. I was tossed out by the journalism teacher after 6 weeks because I think I said something which made sense to me at the time. Like, well, if you knew sports, I wouldn't have to talk to you about it. So I promptly got thrown out, and Greg was thrown out, I think, the following 6 weeks. What the heck? I was sports editor for like 6 weeks. So I still put it on the resume. See? Now see, this is what Susan tells what you all do. You're supposed to get up and say things high school. Come on, Tally. Come on, Tally. I want you to at least strike back on King telling all the short jokes on you. When Sam Weber was up there, somebody brought their little brother and he was about 3 feet. He was up to here on Weber. Doug Tally said, or King said, look, Tally, there's a picture of Bill Weber. I thought it was.
I think it was.
You know, I wasn't sure it was Weber.
See, being a girl at Kelly wasn't nearly as good for storytelling as being a guy. Right? Right. Because it was pretty tame over on the girls' side of the building. It was pretty interesting over on the boys' side because you guys were a bunch of delinquents. Teenage boys. You just better be the brothers of that.
For those of you that think I'm going to go get a beer, I'm going to go look up that word. I'll be right back, Earl.
Yeah, bring back some beer.
Actually, boys thought it was pretty interesting on the girls' side of the building. I definitely thought it was a lot more interesting than on the boys' side. Won the second time than I did the first time, and oddly enough, he wasn't having any more fun with me being in Latin 1 the second time than he was the first time. And I told him, you know, brother, I've got a lot of other things I could be doing. And he said, okay, like what? And I said, well, I've got some, there's other things I could be doing. He says, all right, what do you suggest? I said, well, I suggest if you pass me in Latin 1, I won't take Latin 2. He says, Brother Roland said, that sounds like a really good deal. Let's do that. You come in every day, you sit down in class, and you just study, and we just won't bother each other. I said, okay, good. So about a week later, I said, brother, you know, I got a lot of other things I could be doing during this hour. How about if I just like check in with you from time to time? And he said, okay, all right, you check in with me from time to time, like this semester and next semester. And so I went to, now that I had this free time, and it was close to the lunch hour, it was the period right before lunch, I thought, you know, I could go to lunch. So, but I didn't have a car. So I went to Greg, and I said, can I borrow your car? He says, can you drive stick shift? I said, sure. That was a very sturdy Chevy Nova. Very sturdy. I remember one day I was, during that hour, during Latin, I was over in Southland's parking lot, and my mother drives by. Anyway, I ate lunch at the Wiener Schnitzel pretty much every day, which freed up time for, you know, schmoozing during the lunch hour here. You know, I'd have to hurry up and get back for lunch. But, so I didn't major in language in college, but anyway, that's enough of the stories. I do want to say a thank you, though. I think everybody should be. Gary Oberste has served this school very, very well. And those of us that have had kids go through here, and we've had 3 that are now also members of the Alumni Association, Gary has has had a huge impact on each of our 3 kids in different ways. And that's just a small piece of all the thousands of kids that have gone through here in the, 24 years that you've been here as a teacher. As a teacher, you've been here 24 years? Well, I didn't know when you came. I didn't know when they were counting the time you were here as a student or not. They don't count that towards the pension, I guess. But, you know, for those of you that haven't had kids to go here and whatnot, I mean, they've really missed out on something. Mr. O, as they call him, and we've had quite notoriety with our kids because we would say, well, we went to school with them. But he is an institution every bit as much here as Brother Bernadine has been an institution here, and of course Gary's been involved in organizing every one of these reunions we've ever had. And I really want to thank Gary for the dedication you've had to this school and how much it's meant to us and to our kids. Thank you, Gary, for that.
Why does he think that now that I'll pay that 20 on you? August 1st, I start my 24th year. And actually, I'd like to thank you all because I remember it was October 3rd of my freshman year. I came in, so this good zigs, I need to move on. Okay. This is going to be on the 35th. This will be on the 35th anniversary.
You're looking good.
I remember the very first October, I went into my mom and dad and we had dinner and they said, what do you want to talk about? I said, I've made my decision on life. And they go, oh, really? And I said, I want to be a teacher. And I remember Brother Kevin and Brother Benedict and, you know, all the teachers we had so much fun. The first 2 years of high school, I couldn't wait to get here. And I said, that's what I want to be. And from that point on, you know, even through the brothers for 3.5 years. And after my second year, I was teaching at Christian Brothers High School in Memphis, and Brother Tom was the director here. And he goes, I want you to come be assistant principal. I said, I've only taught 2 years. I said, and he said, I don't care, I want you. I said, I can't do it. And the third year I came, and that was starting 24 years in this August. And it has been the best 24 years. And even you ask kids now, every kid, every faculty member say, you work yourself to death, which I'm working. They said, Mr. O, you've got the best job there is. And my job, I always tell parents, it's like this. Kelly has always been good in discipline, good in academics, good in religion and all that, safety and that. They said, my job, Brother David is our director now, he calls me Mr. Fun. And it works like this, that all the bricks are the religion, the math, and all this stuff. But what I do is the mortar that keeps it all together. And I've always, from Brother Tom, when he first hired me, he said, if you help kids have good times, and after we're talking about all the good times, we've not talked about what we learned in physics and all the supplements we copied from Bob. And, those, they're probably doing him good now. They aren't doing me any good. But it's the fun things that keep, that's what makes kids have a good time in school. And if you enjoy, then that's why you come back to reunion. It's not because we learn just because all the people. It's just, remember when you just talk about all those things. It's those relationships. That's what my job is to create in essence. Because that's what makes, once you do that, everybody does well academically and they get their scholarships and all that stuff happens. But and I've been very, very blessed that my job just evolved. I was a dean of discipline. And yes, I can be mad. Okay? And I had kicked kids out of school. Okay. And academics, but it just evolved by the luck of the draw for a couple of counseling degrees and stuff where all of a sudden I was doing this and the student activities. And it's really all the stuff that's not dean of discipline or academics. I take care of it. It's all the fun stuff. And that's what makes kids, from freshman lock-ins, and the Edwards have been at senior lock-ins. Doug Talley for the next 6 years. Okay, I called up Doug and I said, Doug, and he goes, what do you want? I said, I need you at 3 o'clock on Sunday morning. No, I'm not getting up at 3 o'clock. And his son Brent, he said, is he going to graduate? Okay, I'll be there. He's there, and He's got another kid coming, but we've had a lot of alumni through the years that have come through, and you can always call them and say, I need you, and they're always there. And one of my best buds is I tell stories about McGivern that, in high school he did not show his academic expertise. And I say, Mike, you're a lawyer? He starts laughing. He goes, I even laugh at myself. And so do we. And it's just talking about guts, but when I would have a home room, we do the raffles, and you can't do the illegal now, but all these different drives, I'd pick the shyest kid in school, and he's usually a guy or girl, it didn't matter, and I'd say, we're going to win. I always win the raffles. I always win. And I call all my alumni people, and I said, you call up McGivern, and you say, Mr. McGivern, he said, Mr. O told me to call you. Said, Gary. Remember we wrestled in PE, and you ask him if he wants to buy a book, and he always says, okay, I'll buy. He goes, what if I buy $200 worth? And the kid comes in going, Mr. O, and he goes, he said, if you just ask, they'll say yes, all these alums, because it's the connection which we made in high school. And, I've been up to about, $3,000 worth of raffle.
We're getting up.
Yeah.
The happiest day of my life was when he quit doing homeroom.
But it's all those, connections you make that people come back to, like Doug and Andy chaired the senior graduation party, and we had 96% of the seniors here. Instead of going out and drinking, they come and do an all-night party and stuff. And I will tell you this, that this is, in fact, I told Suzanne Harris last time, we were talking about education and I said, if this isn't the best school in Oklahoma now, I wouldn't be here. And it is. And so y'all done and we're around and off the last thing. We padded tonight, not to give you all a refund, but we're hoping to, and you still owe me. Yeah, okay. He's going to give me let's do it right now. He's going to stick down. Okay, good. Good job, Earl. I just want to make sure they're good. They're good. They're good.
I still went here. So I can come up and speak.
When we started putting Doug and we're all getting together and Susan and stuff, we wanted to pad it to about $500 because we wanted to give $500 for Schulte's kids coming in to buy books and stuff. So after this weekend's over, whatever we can pad, and if anybody wants to give anything extra, okay, whatever, then we're all going to write a big check and give it to, I had the pleasure of having David Schulte, who's a sophomore in leadership class, and I taught this year, and nicest kid, he is just so, he is like a saint, and it's, Bill was just sort of, like this, but he is, yes sir, and he's working on his Eagle Scout, and he is a saint. And we started playing, I said, we need to pad this to make sure we can give him, and it'd be nice to give him $500, $600 and say, use this for tuition or books or whatever. So, yeah, that's where your money's going, okay? Good job. He's proud to be here. So, you want to give me more, Ed?
You want me to?
Come on, Ed, toss it
Like, spent more than most time than that on Embarrassed Man.
Hi, dear. There, we're so glad you're here.
I'm so glad to be here.
I don't know whatever happened to Dolly. I guess she doesn't write, she doesn't talk.
Did she hang herself?
Her last words were the horror. The horror.
Nobody knew really what she was talking about. No, I couldn't figure it out. I don't think there was probably anybody in school more stunned than she when that came out. I think she was thinking, oh my God.
They said, what can we do to McGivern?
Yeah, that's right.
All right.
Pool tennis got kind of second level up there that, kind of a dance floor here, and then another second level dance floor. Then around the perimeter, there's like an elevated seating area. Then a big bar.
Are we having fun?
We are having fun.
the back.
See all the faces like talks about.
We should fight one, but I like the concept. Girl, I thought they were, it was like we were studied to be temps. Kelly girls. Yeah, Kelly.
Kelly did.
Yeah.
Well, that's a party.
Get married today.
Sister Mary Gerard, Clarissa Skehan,
Yeah.
Eileen McKenna, Hans Coppinger, Pat Johns, Johnny Painter, Nancy Rogers, Greg Perrette, Gianna Seaton, Tony Saab, Laura Haley, Joseph Lepley, Terry Grady, Cecile Kelly, Mike McGivern, Jeff Davis, Joan Gilliam, Nancy Lackner, Jane Carlson, Cheryl Yaden, Tommy Laymeyer, Mary Novelli, Jimmy Schooley, Richard Curlin, Doug Edwards, Chris Eltsel, Penny Herschel, James Stewart, Linda Manapella, Roy Stone, Rita Hellman, Mark Cohen, Martha Mader, Katie O'Halloran, Tommy Frommel, Susan Schultz, Bill Dowdy, Connie White, Michelle Sadler, Mike Coyle, Fred Brinkman, Eileen Masterson, and David Burgess.